It takes a little while for the banner juice to start, and then it like permanently sustains.
I think this might be one of your faster builds, to be honest.
It's not even got any action
Like,
speed
you're
though.
zooming.
Like
Yeah,
I could
wow.
make it a lot faster
Have
too.
you... I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, put a reverse chill on it. Yeah, I could do that. But as you can see, like the Defiance banner is like permanently sustained. The basic premise is we are an armor stacker, right? And it's kind of pretty worked out build, right? Armor stacking, you get a whole bunch of armor. You use replica Dream Feather, which gives you attack damage per armor. And then
Okay.
the basic idea is you just scale the absolute crap out of auras.
Yeah.
But I guess where the twist comes with this version is that I'm using the banners, and Champion actually got a rework just recently where they now have this passive here. Banners you place does not prevent you from gaining valor. This mod here is actually on a chest as well, but taking that chest really hurts you as an aura stacker, so
Yeah.
not ideal. But anyway, so
Just, as someone that's not a champion player, just give us a quick run through on Valor.
so valor is what is needed for banners. It's not really to do with champion specifically.
Right.
It's the mechanic, and it was reworked last patch, right? So the way it works now is that you get these stacks up here of valor, and that is what juices up your banners. And so if I show you here, so we got here Defiance banner, and it gets 8% movement speed and 8% suppress, but then you get 12% more aura effect per valor consumed. And we've got the max amount of valor you can get, which is 105, and that's 12% more. So what that equates to, oh, that's kind of annoying.
So is Valor, is that typically 100 cap if you raise that? Or is it always 105?
It actually starts with 50, and you get a whole bunch
wow,
of
okay.
max valor from the tree here. So this is basically where you get all the max valor. The way it works is 12% more aura effect per valor consumed. So if we get out the calculator and we go 105 times by 12, which 12,060. So you basically get a 13x multiplier on the Balor's 8% more movement speed and 8% suppress, right? But this is more aura effect, right? And so that means that any sort of increased aura effect gets applied first before this multiplication. So let's say we have, let's just say 300% aura effect, which is kind of typical for an armor stacker, right? So we'll times the 8 times by 4 because it's 300% increased. So that's 32, right? So now we go 32 times by 13, which equals 416. And 416 movement speed is what this looks like. So basically, stacking increased aura effect is mega powerful. So that's just Defiance banner. There's 3 banners in the game. So I'll just explain the other ones because they're a little bit interesting, but there's some other cool things that we can do with these banners. This one here just gives a whole bunch of block chance, and we've got on the passive tree versatile combatant, which means that our overcap block chance applies to spell block. So if I place Dread banner down, if you have a look down here, we have block chance 65, which is overcapped by 198 and 65 block spell. It's not really reliable to rely on this block and rely on the recovery from it because Dread Banner's not always going to be up. I'm more using it for the other juice. Anyway, so then we also got War Banner, and War Banner is giving us accuracy and more physical damage. And because we get a little bit of physical damage from the base damage on Replica Dream Feather, so that gets scaled pretty damn hard. I think it ends up being, so if we do the math again with that one, so we go 4 times 4, and then times that by 13, and that's 208%. So that's 208% more physical damage, which is not bad. But again, we're getting a lot of our flat from other sources like Smite and that sort of thing, which is very typical. But here's the cool thing, right? Why we're going out of our way to spend all these points, and I mean the movement speed is like pretty damn good itself, but it's like, it's still pretty gimmicky. You have to press a lot of buttons. Surely we can make it better. Well, there's a really, really powerful banner node which goes low key under the radar, which is this one here. It says, banners grant 5% to all elemental resistance to you. And this gets scaled with both the increase aura effect and the more on the banner gem itself. And so watch this, for example. I'll place a single banner down with max charges, right? With no banners on, these are my resistance values. And then I press one banner down, and we just get another 200 just there. Yep, and then we wait a couple of seconds. It literally only takes a couple of seconds, and we got full banner. Place another one down. We get another 200 all res. And then wait a couple of seconds, and then we're max charges again. Press the dread banner down, and there we go. We have like almost 1,000. But hold up for a second, because like all res is like, okay, that's all well and good, but you don't need more. Well, armor stacking's got some benefits that can get from all res stacking. So
I was going to say there's going to be something you're making.
Yeah, I'm actually making use of every single one of them. So every single overcap res. So this chest here, which is the Grasping Mail, which is a breach chest. So these have exclusive mods that can only be found at breach, right? And it says critical chance is increased by overcapped lightning resistances, right? And we get, around 1,000% lightning resistances and overcapped about, 900%. So it equates to around, 800 to 900. I didn't look at it exactly, but around that figure. It's not bad. And then we got evasion rating. This one is obviously super important for an armor stacker. So overcap cold res, and again, we get like 900%. Yep. And you'll note that there is also an overcapped fire res one. However, I'm actually taking advantage of this new ring that was introduced this league, which is Animate's Embrace, right? And this ring here gives you 200% fire res penetration as a max, and obviously we get up to that pretty damn quickly. So we start off with 127, and then we press banners, and we get 201, but we need to hit 290, right, to get the 200 cap. And then you just place a couple more banners down, and Bob's your uncle. Very quickly you will get to the cap of that ring. The ring massively nerfs our fire res. You get 66% of that. The low roll of that is 65. So we take a mega hit to our fire res, and therefore we don't get that giga amount of fire res like we would with the cold res. And so I'm sticking with the just the cold res overcap mod, and not taking advantage of that one. The reason why I don't know if I should explain the full mechanics of armor stacking, because it's pretty well straightforward and you could probably find lots of guides, but I'll give a quick TLDR, right? We just juice up the auras, and we take iron reflexes, which converts all of our evasion rating into armor. And so because we're an armor stacker, we use grace and determination, and the flat amount that we get from grace, that's where we get most of our flat evasion. And then that is actually basically where we get most of our armor from. So that gets scaled massively with the aura effect, and then it gets converted over to armor, and then the determination applies to it as well. And so that overcap cold res is applying to all that massive flat that we get from grace, and that's how we get pretty giga amounts of armor for a pretty low budget. Because let's have a look. So I'll place all banners down. So we place one down, and now we have 565,000, which is pretty low end for an armor stacker. And then we go in again. I think the flask hero are gonna throw it out of whack a little bit, but I'll just place them all down. So we got them all down for 105, and I'll press the flask as well. And so we get it at like a respectable 900-ish, and it's not too bad. Like, considering that armor stackers with no mage blood, I don't think would be able to get to pretty close to that sort of value. So we definitely get a lot of bang for buck from the armor banner scaling, thanks to this passive here, essentially. But yeah, you got to keep in mind is that, like, to get those sort of armor values without mage blood, it's quite a challenge, and it's also extremely expensive. I would say this version of my build here, maybe around 50 divs, you could probably get away with 50 divs, which is actually very cheap for an armor stacker, like very, very cheap. those sort of builds start at Mageblood value because it's like a requirement. Mageblood's basically a requirement to start it. And then it's like another mirror on top of that. Yeah, so that's basically the main premise is we're just
I
taking
like it.
advantage
There's a lot of
mostly
synergy.
of this passive here, which is doing huge amounts of value for our build.
Yeah. Okay, question quickly. So you're getting, obviously you've already, even before the effects, so you've got a lot of Eliras. Where is that mostly just coming from gear?
It's from auras. So auras once again. So I'll just run down
Right.
all of the
What are you
auras that
running
I'm
auras
using.
wise? Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
So we got determination, hatred, which is okay value. It's not too bad. We got grace, discipline, haste, purity of fire. That's where we get a big chunk of our max res because this gets scaled, and we've got purity of elements too. So we're running more than we need for res, which is in this case fine because any overcapped amount we're taking value from. At the moment, I've got a 3-link static strike, which is just for clear, right? So we got here static strike, awakened chain. Actually, it's technically a 2-link because this is doing no damage at all, and then overexertion. So overexertion is huge value for a single support, just because we're using so many auras. War cries. Actually, a big part, which I probably should explain, is how the hell do we get all this valor to be able to sustain it? And that is, we are using, here we go, 1, 2, 3 war cries here, and then we got another one over here, general's cry. So these war cries here are constantly spamming, and we've got because we're running ostentation, right? This means that we can basically tattoo our entire tree, which means we can giga spam these. I've actually stopped doing all of them because I had too much cooldown reduction, but Warcry cooldown reduction, and that's how our Warcries, like if I just show you one of these ones, they have these 8-second ones have a 2.5, and our General's Cry has a 1.23 second cooldown. And so that is how we can essentially spam the shit. Technically, for a boss fight, we do have to wait a couple of seconds, because you can see here it's not instant that we just get Valor. It takes, what was that, like 3 seconds, and we get full Valor stacks for another banner. But then these banners here, they last for 27 seconds. So you place them down once, and there's no way the boss will live 27 seconds unless it's one of those 50 phase ones. But it's not really an issue, and you'll get the Valor for the next one again anyway instantly while you're waiting. So they last a hell of a long time. Just a bit of quality of life, like you can get a lot of increased duration from this mastery. Here's a good example, and yeah, this tree here is not super min-maxed. Like I've taken this one just because I really needed a slightly more Flask Effect duration and Corrupted Blood. Like this jewel's garbage, but I really wanted to sustain this coruscating, and with Tides of Time plus a little bit of Flask Effect duration here, and from this Timeless Jewel here, I get Flask Effect duration here. And that's how we can sustain this and not worry about chaos damage. So this Timeless Jewel is giving us Aura Effect, Aura Effect, Aura Effect. And remember how we said Aura Effect is everything. So it scales the banners, it scales our res, it scales our defense, it scales our armor, obviously. Yeah. It scales our ES, it just scales everything.
Yeah, the jewels you're using in the clusters there.
Yeah, the jewels, these are just the classic or armor stacker ones. These ones here can be very expensive. I got these for 5 divs earlier on, the introspection ones. Yeah,
pretty standard jewels. Yep.
Yeah, just some res, some chaos res, and some more aura effect. So basically, this is where you get more aura effect. Yeah, I haven't got all of the aura passives. I'm anointing this one. I haven't got charisma, but if you're min-maxing, you could probably
want to sneak up there. Yeah.
Well, not necessarily sneak up there. Use the jewel that lets you snipe it. Yeah. So that's essentially the build. So so what is actually doing the damage? Sorry, I didn't even say that. So General's Cry, Blade Flurry. Obviously, because we're spamming the absolute crap out of Warcry cooldown for our Valor, it makes sense that we actually use General's Cry, which is a Warcry for our damage as well. And so the way General's Cry works is they will spawn a bunch of clones when you have a Desecrate. And by the way, I've actually automated Desecrate using Battle Mage's Cry here. And so whenever I hit something, you'll see it summons the Desecrate on the ground here. So that's automated. But obviously Static Strike's going to clear perfectly fine. But on the bosses, I don't have to press Desecrate because I've already got 50 freaking buttons I need to press because of all the banners. And so I will say that the banners play style, just when you're mapping, it's okay. You just press Defiance banner, every like 3-4 seconds for giga movement speed, which is not too bad. It's like essentially like clicking a Quicksilver Flask before you get the Instilling
I was going to
Orbs.
say, sometimes it actually feels nice to press the movement speed button when it's making you go this fast.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But for bossing, like, and obviously, like, I don't really need any of the banners to kill mobs, but like the Defiance banner will always be up. Actually, another important thing I need to explain is the lingering effect. So this passive here is super important. Bannerman, and this lets your banners linger for 3 seconds when you leave the area, and that's how we can essentially just run forever. And then the champion's passive here will refund 30% of the banner, the valor that you consumed when you leave it. And so this is pretty damn good quality of life. It also gives giga amount of life regen too, which is converted to ES regen with Zealot's Oath. So this is actually really good sustain. And obviously the aura effect is really, really, really good. So that's how this quality of life. Unfortunately, it doesn't refund when the duration expires. But that's fine anyway, because we got more than enough valor that we need. It will feel really, really, really bad if we didn't have this passive here, because you just like constantly drop low speed after you leave the area. But we can just keep it permanently up like this, and it's super simple. And because the refund here, you'll notice that the refund, it makes us go up to valor super fast. And that's because these instances of valor gained scale that 30% refund, and it ends up being around like 70%. I don't quote me on that exact number, but something like that. Yeah, and so, as soon as we leave the area, boom, big chunk of valor comes back. And so there's never a case where Defiance banner will not be on. You can just have it permanently on, and there's no issue there as long as you just press the button every couple of seconds. And when you're generally mapping, it's very simple to just press it and press Static Strike and then kill everything and run through everything. So yeah, it's very nice. General's Cry, Blade Flurry. This is a well-known combo where the channeling attacks, they channel for the full second so each of these clones will channel Blade Flurry for a full second. You need enough attack speed so that they reach 6 stages and therefore get the bonus damage per stage that comes on this gem. And so that's why we're using things like haste and that, just to get us into the required amount for Blade Flurry. And Blade Flurry's General's Cry is a well-known, very, very, very strong single target skill. The clear is completely trash, and hence why I'm using a 3-link for clearing. But because we got more than enough damage thanks to this ring, basically, we have no issue with clearing. And obviously the Explode Flask, which is actually really nice that the Explode Flask is a bismuth, because the all res is kind of nice too. That just gives us damage because our triple overcapped stacking. This Coruscating is actually a Ruby Flask, and we very much want to run a Ruby Flask for the max fire res because we're running, I believe it's on this one, Melding of the Flesh here, which gives us, is capped by the highest one. So that means our fire res, which, because we've got Purity of Fire and a bunch of auto scaling, that's how we get 90 all res. Even though this duel comes with neg 5, we get so much from the aura and from the Ruby Flask.
Yeah, it's nice to fit that in for sure.
And because we're permanently sustaining this one, so that's always on. And our weaknesses would be chaos damage. We've only got 75% chaos res, and we're not immune. Some armor stackers believe go CI, but we've only got 3000 ES, so chaos can be a little bit of a problem. Physical damage is obviously not a huge problem when we have 400,000 armor. So That's pretty good. And yeah,
Yeah,
that's
good
kind
kits,
of the
right?
build. It's pretty straightforward. I guess it's just yeah, Banner's secretly pretty good, but yeah, you do have to press them. It takes. I will give this a warning to anyone who wants to play this build. It takes a little bit of muscle memory and that to just to like track the valor and shit. But you don't have to look up here and track it. You can just press the button and then
Yeah,
just
like
wait a couple of seconds. It
a feel
doesn't
for
have
it.
to be exactly 105. You're going to kill things fast. You can press war banner, and as soon as you got to press it down once, just don't get trigger happy and spam it and not think about what you've pressed. You only have to think about what you press when you're versing a boss, right? And so you just wait a couple of seconds in between each banner. Sometimes they'll have an invulnerable phase, and then you just chuck them all down there, and then they last 27 seconds, which is
Yeah.
and maybe you just got to occasionally glance your eyes down here and to see if one of them's turned off, and then press it again. It's a little bit of micromanaging, so I wouldn't say this is the smoothest again. And these are all buttons you have to press too. Same with smite. Smite is a huge amount of flat damage.
Yeah.
Which, oh, by the way, we're also running Avatar of Fire because of we're obviously using this ring here, so we want everything to be fire. So we're running all our physical, well, 90% of our physical is converted to fire thanks to this mastery and Avatar of Fire, but we actually lose 50% of the other sources of flat damage like smite, but 50% scaled to 200% fire pen ends up being super strong anyway. So, it's still very beneficial to take Avatar of Fire. It will still
Yeah.
scale the smite better than if you didn't have it, even though it cuts the damage in half.
What amulet were you using? I don't think we looked at that.
This one here is it's literally just aura effect on a stick. So it's got 15% aura
Chaos Rest.
effect. Actually, another huge problem I need to explain about this build. It is probably the most starved for sockets build I've ever played. And you can imagine when we've got a whole bunch of war cries and a whole bunch of auras and a 6-link automated setup with a clear skill. Like, I've had to go out of my way to try and get
Yeah,
auras where I can. And I'm not using an
I'm
Enlighten.
half.
This ring here is actually super nice because I also have mana problems. But ideally, you could use an unset ring too if you really need it. But I've managed to fit everything thanks to the Val implicits. Sorry, the corruption implicits. So we have Purity of Fire here. We have haste on the boots. And on this one, we've got discipline. And so none of our auras are linked to Enlighten. So we actually lose a bit of value from there. But that's just how socket starved we are.
Yeah.
And so because we're running low life, we got Purity of Elements and Anger and Determination on our life. And so that's how we just get, a whole bunch of stuff. Another thing to explain, the Grace we are getting for free thanks to Guardian's Blessing. And we're using Animate Guardian with Guardian's Blessing. And I've got him linked with an Empower here too, just for more levels on Grace, as well as the Animate Guardian, which is kind of nice. But the reason why we've got Grace here on this setup is because Animate's Guardians actually gives 35% aura effect, which is huge for Grace. So it's very worth it. And then the Animate Guardian itself is just as much defense as possible to stop it dying. So it's got a whole bunch of regen because the Guardian's Blessing will make it take a massive degen. So lots of regen, lots of life regen rate. We've got a life gain on block shield. This Guardian won't die very easily, that's for sure. He will live quite well, especially when you consider that he is being affected by all of our resistances. So he can't be affected by elemental ailments thanks to Period of Elements. He'll have, more than enough all res. He'll have Giga Grace and Determination. So he is going to be decently damn tanky, especially while he's in our vicinity. And so, yeah, unfortunately, it does take a 4-link setup, but it does. And remember, Grace is our biggest source of damage because that's where we get all our flat armor, which is eventually being scaled by Dream Further. So, yes,
Okay.
scaling Grace is very important. Anyway, I think that basically covers most of the build. Let's go a little bit talking about the Mercenary, right?
Don't look too
So
you.
this Mercenary here, I kind of did for lols. It doesn't really boost my damage at all, but he actually does a lot of damage. And this is because Um, he too can be armor stacker. So we've got two armor stackers in the same party. So he's got this chest here, which gives the overcap cold res, and it gives him versatile combatant. So with the dread banner, he'll have cap blocked, which is kind of nice. With this one here, he'll get overcap fire pen. He doesn't have the ring here, but I've just sort of slapped on some shit and wanted to test his damage. If I really wanted to make an armor stacker mercenary, I would probably be more support myself and get rid of all my damage setup and just become full armor stack support for the Merc, which is definitely a viable strat, by the way. Like, I reckon you could make the Merc probably do twice our damage, at least, and so that's pretty damn cool. But at the moment, I've got him with this ring here, which gives him iron reflexes at maximum frenzy charges, and then I've got him 3 minimum frenzy charges with the anoint and these jewelries, which is just really crap and cheap jewelry. So this Merc is not real min-max, but I just wanted to see what his damage was like, and it's pretty damn good. He also is doing Assassin's Mark and Elemental Weakness for us with an extra curse effect here, so Assassin's Mark and Elemental Weakness.
That's always nice.
Yeah, but if I put down the banners, I'll just wait a couple of seconds and do that. We can click down this. He's got 750,000 armor, and keep in mind, that's close to our value here. He's not affected by flasks. If we were going a support version of this, we could make this like easily 2 mil armor, which it just superiorly outscales what we can do with our character with all the support stuff. I'll give you an example of things we could do. So we could use things like this on us, and so this would give us it would give our mercenary the flasks that we use, and so that's obviously really nice because that means he can get a whole bunch of armor because these flasks give heaps amounts of armor and res, and so we could use that. There's link skills, and that would be another button, so even more annoying buttons. So it's not exactly the nicest playstyle, but you could give him like 100% crit chance and way more aura effect with the link skills with the aura link gloves. Yeah, there's lots of things you could do. I reckon you can make the Merc do way more damage than we can do right now, but I wanted to build this character where I'm still doing the damage because we go super fast, and I don't really want to wait around for the Merc. Actually, though, the Merc is pretty damn fast. I believe the way the Mercs work is they get affected by your movement speed value, and because what I noticed is that like you can see that even when the he can sort of keep up. Like as soon as he tries to attack something, he'll stop. But you see how fast he goes, and he's obviously being
most of my builds.
Yeah, he's also being affected by Bannerman, even though he shouldn't be. And my theory is because they just straight up pull your movement speed. If we press back, they just straight up use your movement speed value. And so as long as I'm affected by Bannerman, he will also be affected by Bannerman, and hence the 662, and we could take him out of the range as well, and he's still affected by it. You see, he's not affected. He hasn't got the Bannerman passive yet. He still has the movement speed always. So that means he can go super fast too, and he could giga juice his attack speed as well. So, like I'll just walk here and I'll let him do all the killing, and I'm not going to press static strike. He just runs through and kills everything. It's kind of funny. So, yeah, you could definitely play a support version of this character. I mean, obviously, there's Blood Aqueducts, but he will one-shot anything regardless. He does a lot of damage. It was more to showcase the clear speed of the Merc. Like, he can keep up with us running and sort of kill everything. Got to keep in mind is that his attack speed is, like, nowhere near his values that he could get. So, he would be a lot faster if he didn't have to wait that split second to attack, because he could attack a lot faster. That is the build. It's kind of it's a little bit meta because it's just an armor stacker with banners essentially.
And no worms.
But I don't think it's necessarily super obvious that using the banners are a pretty damn cheap bang for buck way to play an armor stacker. Sorry. I would rate it. We're obviously using the Fortify staff with Champion. That's really powerful. This is the new passive that they gave Champion here, where it gives a % more armor per fortification. So min-max version of this character would probably use Celestial Brace, but that's like, I don't know, another 50 divs. If you want to play an armor stack up for reasonably cheap with low barrier to entry, I'd say you'd need about 50 divs to start this version. If you wanted to do it properly, then you could do this version here, but that's 50 divs is a lot cheaper than what the entry would be to start an armor stacker otherwise.
Yeah, so. Exactly. 50 divs is an achievable number for someone that's played through a league starter and they're starting to make some money.
I think, not talking about the build, but this Timeless Duel here is just super, super good. Like, it lets you take advantage of, where is it? Stuff like this, which gives global defenses. Like, I don't give a shit about attributes, so like that's super nice. That's 40% extra ES and armor, which is super, super good. This one here, the rune graft here, 30% slower, buffs expire 30% slower. That works for the Bannerman. So the Bannerman's actually a buff. The 3 seconds here. It's kind of closer to 4 seconds thanks to that rune graft here. But yeah. So it lingers for 3 seconds.
You've got to name this build something Bannerman.
He's called Flagrantly Thick. That's my character.
God, end the video.
Nice. Thanks for watching. Peace.